Hi, welcome to the SoccerBeat podcast. We're talking Chiefs today, and we've got Tsepo Masilela here, former Bafana Bafana, Getafe, Kaizer Chiefs defender. We're gonna be talking a lot about Percy Tau. He's a free agent and whether Kaizer Chiefs should be looking at signing him. Before we get going though, please guys, if you've been following the podcast, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Once the podcast hits 50,000 subscribers, there's going to be 50,000 Rand up for grabs to be won by you guys. So please support the pod and hit that subscribe button. It really helps our visibility. Okay, so Tsepo, Percy Tau. So we know you know him well. We saw you in the stands with him the other day at your half brother Innocent Mayela's final match. We know you from the same place. So do you think, as a free agent, this is a player that Chiefs should sign, and would he fit in well with Chiefs?
Oh, Percy Tau, my homeboy, and when I look at Percy Tau, I think he's 31 this year, and he would fit in any good attacking team or any of the top three big teams. I still think he's got a lot to offer for South African football, and I would sign him. But again, when you sign players, I prefer a team to have a squad management, knowing how many attackers we have, and like how many midfielders, like the whole squad. You need three, five, six center backs. So I would sign him sitting here. I would sign him. He's a free agent. There's no transfer fee. That's a huge plus. We all know that sometimes transfer fees can be. So now you're dealing with the player only with the salaries and his package. And again, it's not only about the quality in the field what it brings. Like we all know, we haven't had bad stories about Percy Tau, be it discipline, be it fighting with coaches, be it he's a true professional. In big teams, you also want to have a couple of guys that are true professionals that the younger boy can look up to them. And he's a true professional. And yeah, a team like Kaizer Chiefs needs the quality, to be honest. They need not just only pace, but if they can get a few five, six, seven guys that will push them closer to competing with the Sundowns. Pirates has been finishing second. Push them closer. In that bracket, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you mentioned his age is 31, but I think you make a good point. He's a very good professional. I think we know off the field he's already studied, so he's very good at balancing his personal and his professional life. So I don't think that makes it as big a problem maybe as for some people who would be 31. I think Percy is such a good pro that you could give him a 2, 3, 4 year contract and you're going to have good quality service for all those years. The other thing as well is he's played in the PSL and he had 2 outstanding seasons. Sometimes players from overseas that come back, like Lilepo Motiba and even Thabo Tsele, they haven't played in the PSL, so you can't be sure how quickly they will adjust. Percy, of course, was the best player in 2 seasons in a row. What I'm interested to hear from you is where you think his best position is, maybe based on the past, but also in as he goes into his 30s. Because I remember at Sundowns he played his best football through the middle, often as a false 9 or even with 2 false 9s, him and Vilakazi. But we haven't really seen him play that position since then. Even Brighton he's playing as a winger, Awakli as a winger, Bafana not really been using him in the middle. So I'm keen to see where you think, his best role is, knowing, even having spoken to him, where he thinks he can fulfill his potential the most.
You're right. You're right when you're saying the past season. We see him coming more from the right. Like more as a right winger cutting in. He's got a left foot, so he enjoys those 1v1 battles where he can cut in and try create or score goals. And because it's versatile, as you say. At Sundowns they used to play him up top, as a false 9 or as a striker, because he's also very good in holding up the ball using his body, and he makes good runs also. So but at Kaizer Chiefs, you would look at the goal contributions from the wingers, because that also counts in modern games. If you have wingers that look, Lilepo came halfway through the season and he gave them 6 goals. So you can imagine if you have a one winger that's giving you 8, 10, and you have a Percy that gives you, I'm pretty much sure he can get to 8, 10 goals, for Kaizer Chiefs. If he plays regularly. So I would use him, more on the winger. He can come or right wing, and but obviously, as I said, is versatile. He can also play up front if need be.
Yes, no, fair enough. So I personally like him more in the middle. You prefer him on the right, so maybe we're not on the same page there, but you know the player, so you'll know what he loves. I'm just wondering if they bring him in, which players do you think might maybe pay the penalty? Because, you've got Mfundo Vilakazi, he will hopefully play more minutes next season. There's Shabalala, he does play more as a 10, and there's obviously Sirino as well, who can play as a 10 or wide. But you've already mentioned Lilepo on one wing. If Percy's on the other wing, is that going to maybe block the path of some of these younger players to actually get the minutes they need to keep developing?
Uh, Blocking the path, chances are yes, but at the same time, you want to give them that competition that will push them. You don't want the youngsters to relax at their age. We know Fundo Villagazi. He's been used more as a sub. The passes in and Mdu Shabalala. He's been getting more game time, and you still have a Duba, you still have a Pule Modi. So now you're thinking if you have an attack that's stacked up like that, you know, meaning now you've got quality on the field and on the bench. It's a big boost also for the team. Uh, but I'm also worried with Sirino, man. He doesn't play like the full games. Every game that he starts, he gets most of the games that he started, he got subbed. So I'm worried. Sitting here thinking how many games good, like top class game can he give Kaizer Chiefs, and he's still part of the coaches. Obviously, the still window is still open. Right now, we can only talk, but we don't know the movement. We keep on seeing every day. Thank you to so and so. Thank you. And there's a lot of speculation, but yeah, man. I would think also as Serino, would have to they'll looking at the age, there's this thing of we managing the older guys, what they say in football. So I'd also thinking of the youngsters. Yes, maybe they'll have to be sacrificed in the process, but if it's for the good of the team, and hopefully in Africa they can go, further like group stages, no, sorry, knockouts. That brings more games, more games for them.
Yeah, I was going to bring that point up next. Chiefs are playing in the CAF Confederations Cup. The last time they won actual continental honors was 2001. Of course, we know they got to the final, was it 2021, where they lost to Al Ahly in the 3-0 under Stuart Baxter. With Percy Tau's experience on the continent, and also with the rules change, those CAF Champions League teams don't drop down into the Confederations Cup now. So you have more of a clear run at maybe winning the trophy for Chiefs than maybe they would have had 2 years ago when some of those Champions League teams would come down. Should that be a factor? Percy Tau has played a lot of CAF Champions League football. He's won the trophy. He's got goals in a lot of big matches. Should that be a factor? It also means there's more income for Chiefs if they can get further, if he can bring prize money. So that can also help pay a salary of a player that was a big earner in the Middle East.
Welcome aboard A Mobile, the new way to mobile. Expect a seriously easy experience. We took what's wrong with mobile and made it right. We've ditched things like crazy fees, expensive contracts, and overall nonsense. Up here, the data stays fresher for longer. No more expiring after 1 month. Plus, with eSIM, you can connect in minutes. Refer a friend and you both get 5 gigabytes of mobile data. Visit airmobile.co.za to get connected. T's and C's apply.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if you look at also the prize money of this, the cup competitions in Africa, since Dr. Patrice Motsepe, the president, took over, things have changed, and we've seen a massive, increase in the prize money. So no team wouldn't want to generate more money from such a competition, and that should be a factor. As you say, the more you go, like in the competition, the more money you stand to earn. So that should be a definite factor. And I've heard their coach, he does mention that he wants to take the team to Africa and do well, not just go there to add numbers.
Yeah, fair enough. And of course, Naby got to a final quite recently. His team lost in that game, so I'm sure he'd want to go one step further this time around. I want to bring us. Last time we spoke a bit about Sipho Mbule, and I think you were in the camp that he should be signed. Could you fit him and Percy into the same team? And if you were actually trying to choose one of the two, which way would you go in terms of signing? Because sometimes with salaries coming from big clubs, it's not easy to maybe bring both in. And of course, Percy playing on the right is not going to drop back as a defensive winger, and Mbule also likes some freedom. So how do you fit both? And if you had to pick, who would you go for?
How do you fit both? Good quality players, they find a way, man. I have that belief, that good quality players, they find a way to make it work. And obviously they don't share the same position, so I don't see that as a problem. Mbule can play as a 8, can play as a 10, and Pace is more, a 10, 9, or either or on the right wing or left wing. So, but if I had to choose one, meaning one must die, oof, that's a tough one.
The tough one. So let's say they get Percy through the door and they've got Lilepo. Do Chiefs still need to go for a striker, or do you think they have enough there with Ashley Dupree and Wandile Duba maybe playing through the middle then in that case, if Percy's wide? Or do you think they need that and they need a striker as well, or they're not going to have the goals to actually maybe get into the top, let's say the top 3 next season, maybe not compete with Salons for the title, but get back where they belong in those top 3 places at least?
Yeah, at least if they can close the gap, that's how you start. That's how you build. Obviously, it's a big team. You have to be ambitious. You can't, say, nah, I don't want. If it's there for the taking, go for it. But the striker, yes, they do need a striker. They do need a striker. That's one department that they need to strengthen. If you look at Preez in Africa against big boys, you're thinking Kelly. And again, in tight games, we've seen that Mayela boy from Pyramid, he can finish with his head, he around the box, is aggressive. So in tight games, when you look at that Kaizer Chiefs team, which striker do they have that's deadly, aerial, where, they no block, where you depend on crosses or set piece? Around Morris, he's not a finisher, he's not that typical goal poacher, I think they still need a striker. It also depend on the profile of the striker, I think they do need a striker, with the physique also, and who can finish aerially, in my opinion.
Yes, no, I think I'd agree with you. They need someone who can play in those tight spaces with a Percy Tau, and they need aerial presence. I think maybe in some games away in CAF, you could play Dupree. You're playing on the break, you release him into that space, him and Percy maybe on the counter. That would be quite dangerous. But I think when you play against those teams at home, we see these big clubs come to South Africa, they park the bus, they waste time, they have 25% possession. Then you need those players who can actually give that box presence and that sort of tight space threat that they can bring. So I think we've covered quite a lot today. You and me are both in the camp that Percy Tau had a lot to Kaizer Chiefs. I think he said he grew up supporting Chiefs. So I think it would be a match made in heaven, and it's probably the right time now. He's played in England, he's played in Belgium, he's played in the Champions League against Real Madrid, he played in the CAF Champions League, and now in the Middle East. I think it's time to come home and have some of his let's see the base Percy Tau in the PSL again, like we saw back 2016 around there. Tsepo, thanks for joining me. We'll chat soon about Chiefs. This has been Talking Chiefs for SoccerBeat.
SoccerBeat, what?